All right, before we start, I was saying to Bob right before we closed the show, he should have a show on CNBC. Wouldn't he be great on
so
that?
he'd be on it.
He was so good on it. He should have a show on CNBC. We'll cut out that first part where they don't cheer. We'll go right to the cheering, Bob. Okay. All right, so flying herpes, what a name. Flying herpes? Neil, which future that's you. Neil, which future scientific breakthrough are you looking forward to the most?
I
can answer that.
Okay, what?
Curing old age. Do you agree with that, Bob?
Absolutely.
We want to cure old age
Sir.
so we don't
I worry
right,
that if you live forever, you will lose the urge to bring intensity to your life.
I'd like to give it a shot, though.
You could always just do it tomorrow.
Right. I wonder how much you'd worry about that when you're dying.
But in fact, my life is given that much more meaning knowing that I'm going to die. And I use that to exploit every moment of life.
But when that moment comes, I predict you will change.
If I had a full life, I would say what Einstein said when they said we can operate on you and prolong your life, and he said, my work is done.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
I'm not that good.
Yeah. Meaning is overrated.
Right. Okay.
If you, okay.
No, go ahead.
No, we're good.
All right. Do you think the American automotive industry will ever fully shift from gasoline to biofuel or electric? You like electric cars.
Yes, I do. Because electricity is inherently more efficient. The only problem right now is battery technology doesn't quite give us enough range yet. You know, you fill a car like the new Tesla with a $30,000 or $40,000 battery pack, you can get 300 miles, but that's not a real commercial proposition. But in about 5 years, we'll have lithium sulfur. In about 10 years, we'll have lithium air. Then we'll have about 10 times the energy density of today's lithium-ion batteries, and you'll have a car with a relatively small battery pack. With every morning after you've plugged it in, you've got a 400-mile range in the car. At that point, I think we can kiss the internal combustion engine goodbye for cars.
Just for the long commute, right? The 400-mile radius.
Well, but this gives you something that no gasoline car has, which is every morning when you start, you've got a full 400-mile tank.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a gradual transition.
Okay. Nathan Wold asks, regarding Matt Taibbi's recent obituary, Andrew Breitbart, death of a douche, what level of rhetoric is acceptable upon someone's passing, and should we respect the dead? Well, let me put that in perspective, because I've read many places, I didn't remember this, but when when Ted Kennedy died, Andrew Breitbart wrote that day on his Twitter that he was human excrement. So, you know, just because somebody else does something shitty doesn't mean I would. So I don't agree with that, but I didn't realize that Matt Taibbi wrote this already.
This phrase, you know, people often say, you know, you should not speak ill of the dead, right? I mean, when is a better time to speak ill of someone than when they're dead? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, it's the time when people die to assess.
No, it's
for the fan.
But it's a time.
No, it's cowardice, because if they were alive, they'd jump up and kick your ass.
No, people.
Right?
You
wait till the dead and then say what you want about him?
Dude, people spoke ill of Andrew Breitbart when he was alive, for one thing.
Well, then
and for another thing, you know, when people die, you know, people assess their work and assess their lives and come up with some conclusions. And Andrew Breitbart certainly has never been restrained when it came to offering posthumous, harsh judgments.
Don't we do it because of the family?
Well,
isn't that why you don't do it? Because the family has enough to deal with at the moment somebody dies, so you don't pile on.
Hey, but I read a lot of, in the paper today coming out on the airplane, I read a lot of, you know, progressive commentary, which said we didn't agree with his views,
yes,
but he was passionate, he was a brilliant writer, he stated his case well, et cetera, et cetera. So,
the guy died at 43 with 4 kids. That's different than dying at 86, and you know what I mean? It's a little different. But I know Matt, like John, he'd been on glass, and he would have said there's nothing he said it wouldn't have said before. Probably said it to his face. I mean,
correct.
You know, he's not a two-faced guy at all. He stabbed you right in the stomach.
Okay. David A. asks, a couple of weeks ago, Bill, that must be me, said that today there could not be a couple like James and Mary Matlin. I'd like to ask Mr. Carville if he agrees. Well, yeah, I guess
But don't they exist today?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is with the kind of polarization we have in our politics.
They couldn't meet today and marry.
That's what I think that's what I was saying.
You know, I don't know. I hear people always come up to me time and time again every day and say, you know, my wife's a Republican, I'm a Democrat, or vice versa. And you see that all the time. People are going to fall in love and get married all the time. GM people are going to marry Ford people. And, you know, it's just the industry you're in.
Why don't you just admit that you and Mary are a figment of all of our imaginations?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. When I get home and get a wood shampoo, it ain't going to be a figment of anything. The rolling pin. What did you say on there?
Oh, that's a wood shampoo. Wow, I never spoke gator. I didn't know that. A wood shampoo. I had never heard that.
The only kind I get.
That's wonderful. All right. There was another school shooting this week and no real conversation about gun control. That always happens in America.
I'm glad I live in New York City where it's safe.
What type of tragedy will have to happen before such a thing could take place? I don't know. I
The
mean,
apocalypse.
Yeah, I mean, guns in America is religion.
Yes.
That's people love their guns much more than their Bible. They don't actually read the Bible, but they really polish the guns.
Yeah. That's true.
And shoot them, too.
Yeah, it's a
I think you tackle the Second Amendment at your peril if you're a politician.
Well, that's what the Democrats learned in 2000 when Al Gore lost his home state of Tennessee, and they blamed it on his stance on gun
Bush
control.
lost his home country, the United States. Yeah, he lost the popular vote in the United States. He couldn't carry his own country. I mean,
Oh, I see what you're
saying. It's a bank shot. But
Yeah, it was a bank shot.
it's a smart show, Bill.
It's a very smart show, you're right, and I wasn't very smart. I was still working on the wood rolling pin. I'm sorry, that was...
Wood shampoo.
Wood shampoo. How can the candidates make false promises on gas prices when in fact the power resides outside of their control?
Politicians cannot exercise any control of gas prices other than driving them up by adding more taxes, which I always say, if I were Emperor of the United States, which is the only position I would accept, or be qualified for since I was born in Switzerland, but I would add 25 cents a gallon federal tax revenue until fuel, and that would give people a chance to start adjusting their purchases because they're projecting gas prices out into the future. At least there'd be some certainty, and it would drive people into more fuel-efficient vehicles. But other than going up, to say that if elected, I will make sure that gasoline goes to $2.50 a gallon is patently absurd.
I don't know if I agree with that premise that politicians can't affect prices. The reason why the gas prices are high now is because of Iran. It's not because of supply. It's because they're talking about a war with Iran.
But Bill,
you know this?
No.
It's always going to be the marginal barrel somewhere in the world, and speculation and expectation
But you know what?
that drives
10
the
years
price.
ago, speculators only controlled 30% of the market.
Yeah.
Now they control 80% of the market. That's a big difference.
Rex Tillerson, the CEO of Exxon, says that speculation is 30%. I don't know, but if he says 30, that's your
But
base
30,
price.
even if it is 30, that's enough to put upward price pressures on the thing. But the original question was, I think, can politicians make a promise to say, if elected, I will make sure that gasoline prices go down? I think that is the most unfulfillable promise that any politician could make.
There's a lot of competition for that, too.
Yeah. You will address it on your new CNBC show.
Thank you, sir.
Starts in a couple of months. All right. Thank you, everybody. We got to go.
Real Time with Bill Maher. Ask Bill and his guests your questions right after the show at HBO.com.